My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about the word authenticity. This word right now in modern culture is being used as a goal. In other words, we all want to be authentic. And if you are inauthentic, we tend to think of somebody as there's something wrong with them and they need to, quote unquote, work on themselves to be more authentic. The main reason why I wanted to talk about this today is that I would say over the last 10 years, for me, in the field of mental health, I've been noticing that this word has been used incorrectly. And day by day, it's becoming worse. And I'm noticing this with a lot of things in psychology. Because now between social media, mainstream media, we're looking at Facebook, TikTok, and what have you, I think a lot of people are taking these psychology words and they're using it for their own self-centered gains. You could use this for, let's say, boundaries, narcissism, a whole bunch of words. But today I want to talk about authenticity. Now, in order to do that, we need to get a definition of it. And I'll give you my definition, but I want to start off with from Psychology Today. So I don't want to just use my opinion and my experience. I want to use somebody else's that actually thinks in this way, because I've been noticing the same thing. By the way, the other thing that made me want to do this show today, I had another client just the other day, and he was talking about his girlfriend asked him to come over for Thanksgiving. And they had broken up like 2 weeks before, so I guess it was his ex-girlfriend. But she just thought he needed a place to go, so she asked him to come over. He, of course, had this thought that they may or may not get back together, but that's another story. And he said while he was there, she had other friends there, and she was talking to her girlfriends about all these other guys that she was interested in and who she would want to sleep with and who she felt like was attractive and all that. And this guy, I think, would very rightly say, I'm here, it's a holiday, can you not talk about all these guys you want to sleep with? It's kind of hurtful to me, even though we're not together anymore. It's just kind of inappropriate that you're inviting me over for a holiday and you're going to spend it talking to your girlfriends about who you want to have sex with. And her thought was, or what she said to him, why should I watch what I say? I'm being truthful. I'm being authentic. Your feelings are your feelings, so if you feel bad, that's on you. Who cares? That's a very interesting thought because, again, in psychology now, when we talk about communication, one of the things that we would say is that you're always responsible for what you say, and you're always responsible for how you say it. But you're not responsible for other people's interpretation of it and how they feel about what you say. That kind of makes sense, right? Except that when you put it in a self-serving human being's hands, now you're allowed to say every evil, hurtful, diabolical thing to somebody's face and just say, well, that was on my mind. Why should I censor myself? I don't need to be nice anymore. Humans don't need to be decent to each other anymore because how you understand it, how you interpret it, how you feel about it is all on you. So I can call you a jerk, I can call you every bad name, I can tell you that you're fat and ugly, but it's all on you. I think this is a complete bastardization of what real psychology is. So again, using authenticity to be a mean, nasty human being is really not appropriate and not what authenticity was meant to be. So let me look at from Psychology Today here. And I'm not going to read all of it, of course. We're just going to read a little bit of it, because I think it says it pretty well. Authenticity, defined as the tendency to be true to ourselves, including our values, so as to express ourself without censorship or inhibitions in our interactions with others. So as you can see, this girl was doing that. As well as free of concerns for how other people judge us, is widely regarded as a virtue much like its reverse, namely inauthenticity, is generally seen as a character flaw or defect. And I agree with that. I had already said that. However, academic evidence on the systematic predictors of integrity or ethical behavior points to a rather different reality. In fact, the tendency to engage in pro-social, moral, and altruistic behaviors is inversely related to authenticity. Now here you go. Now we got a really smart person from Psychology Today saying this. And well, obviously it's because I agree with it that I think it's super great that this person is saying this. But it's also been my experience over the last 10 years where people are trying to justify their horrible behaviors with this thought of saying, I'm just an authentic human. I could do a whole nother show on this, but let me give you one reason from Psychology Today that it talks about this. It says, in meta-analytic studies, they show that the best predictors of integrity are agreeableness and conscientiousness. Since people with these personality traits are better at repressing their dark side tendencies in order to act in a considerate, benevolent way, as opposed to focusing on expressing their selfish impulses. In contrast, now this is the important part, in contrast, narcissistic psychopaths have no problem ignoring other people's feelings and emotions and opinions when they engage in antisocial behaviors that advance their own selfish agenda. So here we see this rise in authenticity is also going with the rise of narcissism. And again, should we continue to look at authenticity the way it's being defined today as a good thing? I think not. I think, again, it's being used as an excuse to just being just an abrasive, angry, bitter type of person that just says anything that they want, that they feel, no matter who it hurts at the time. So again, let's go over some quick definitions here because authenticity is confused with honesty. Authenticity is living according to your values and virtues. Now, the gap between how you want to live and who you are as a person, if there's a big gap between that and who you actually are and how you're living, that can create a lot of anxiety. So that makes sense that you want to be authentic to your own values and virtues. Carl Rogers would call that being congruent. In other words, being real. Who you are inside is how you act to people on the outside. And what you're doing on the outside should be congruent to how you feel on the inside. For an example, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan and you work, let's say, as a butcher, and why would you do that? Well, maybe you get paid a lot of money. So on the one hand, you get paid a lot of money for doing something, but on the other hand, it's completely against your values and virtues. So how are you really going to be fully happy? You won't. So that example makes sense that you want to live up to your values and virtues. But here's something. I heard this, a comedian say this a long time ago. Like, why would somebody drink a lot of alcohol? Why would they go to a party and get drunk? And a person might say, well, it enhances my personality. It just enhances everything about me. Well, that sounds great. But what if you're a jerk? It enhances that you're more of a jerk? And that's what would be the problem with being authentic as well. What if your values and virtues are not very good? Maybe you're a criminal. Maybe you're a psychopath. Maybe you're a narcissistic person who doesn't care about other people. And so lining up your behaviors and your words with your values, is that a good thing? It's not a good thing. But in our society today, we tend to say it is, and I'll get into that a little bit more. So what's honesty? Honesty is just very simply being truthful. But the problem with that, again, people use their authenticity because their values and virtues are different than other people's, let's say, because we all have different values and virtues, there's a couple of different kinds of truth now. Well, there always was, but now people are enhancing it because of their fake authenticity and their narcissism. But objective truth would be something that's factual. In other words, it's true for everyone, whether you agree with it or not. 2 + 2 = 4. You don't have to agree with it. It just is. Subjective truth is not factual. It's true to the individual, such as somebody could say, ice cream is a good food. Well, I want to be healthy. Ice cream is not a good food for me, but it could be true for somebody else. Somebody else could say a rainy day is, that's bad weather. And I could disagree with that. I could say, I like rainy days sometimes. It's good for relaxing, it's good for whatever, as long as there's not a lot of traffic out and I don't have to go somewhere. Rainy days are just fine. It waters the flowers, right? So again, that's a subjective truth. So now, in this day and age, we have to argue to death about what actual truth is. So going back to the other part that I was trying to say, is that if your values and virtues aren't good, but you are being quote unquote honest about them and you're lining that up, like somebody could say, so-and-so's a racist, but they're honest about it, and so therefore they're authentic, so give that person a thumbs up. At least they're being honest about their racism. And we're seeing that a lot today, which is unbelievable that part is the part that we're going to say is a good thing. A lot of people, they value somebody who quote unquote tells it like it is. But what does that mean? First of all, are they telling the truth? Objectively or subjectively? Or are they just blurting out the first thing that comes to their mind? And are they justifying bad behavior? Obviously in the name of being authentic. But here's the thing about being authentic and just saying what's on your mind just because it's there, whether it's right or wrong, but you're going to get valued because you have the guts to say it. You don't have to be politically correct. Just say it, no matter what. The problem with that is that there are people who are authentic pretty much all the time. And they're known as drunks, right? People who are drunk, they're inebriated. They're fully authentic. They say whatever's on their mind, whether it's true or not, whether it's nice or not, whether it's valuable or not. And little kids do this too. They don't know any better. They don't know how to repress saying things that are harmful and hurtful to other people. They just say it. So now we're looking up to drunks and we're looking up to little children. So now we have people in politics who act like inebriated fools, and they act like they're 5-year-olds in kindergarten, and we're all applauding their authenticity. Does this make sense to anybody? It actually does, because a lot of people vote for people like this now, but that's another story. So can you be dishonest and be authentic at the same time? Well, it depends on what your values and virtues are. Maybe you have as part of your values and virtues that you don't have this need to hurt people. Why verbalize something that's going to hurt somebody unnecessarily? So why would you tell a lie? Well, maybe you're at your job and you want to tell a lie to keep your job. That's possible. What if your boss says, hey, what do you think of my brand new tie? And you say it sucks, it's ugly, you have no fashion sense whatsoever. You going to say that to your boss? Probably not. What about these guys? I watch them every week in football. And one guy will jump off sides. And then you have 2 teams worth of guys, each pointing at the other team, saying it's their fault. Are they all a bunch of liars and terrible people? Or are they all trying to keep their jobs and say it's the other guy's fault? Whenever somebody fumbles a ball, they're all pointing in the direction of their team that had the ball. There's not one guy with that level of integrity that says, yeah, I fumbled, that guy got the ball. Oh, well, I'll do better next time. I've never seen it. I've been watching football for over 50 years. I've never seen a person do that. Do we harm that person for doing that? Or are we saying that he's getting paid and he's going to lie in order to win the game, to make everybody in his state or city happy for him because that team is going to win? We tend to care more about sports than we do our schools, right? I mean, we care more about college football typically than we do who's doing well in math, English, and science in colleges. So why wouldn't somebody lie about that? Of course they're going to do that to keep their jobs. It makes sense. What about with your partner in a romantic relationship? Would you lie to them? Does this dress make me look fat? You want to be authentic? No, the dress doesn't make you look fat. Your fat makes you look fat. And by the way, I saw 5 people today that are much, much more attractive than you. Nobody's going to say that. Like, come on now. Like, again, this thing about being authentic, it depends on, again, what your values and virtues are. If your values and virtues is to be a decent human being to the people you love and the people who love you, do you need to be brutally honest like that all the time? And by the way, it's still just your opinion. So do you need to put out your opinion like that all the time? I would say not. I would say that's not a good thing. How about this? When we talk about authenticity and how it lines up with values and virtues, let's go with what a lot of people used to say, including my mother, right? If you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it at all. Is that being authentic? Yes, that's the answer. Why? Because if you're an agreeable person, which is a personality trait, if you're a conscientious person, which is a personality trait, and you care about how other people feel, and you're not just this person that thinks that they're a bull in a china closet, just breaking things all over the place, expecting other people, if they feel bad, it's only on them. You could do and say whatever you want to people and go, well, if you ever feel bad, it's not because of me. You need to get over it. That a person like that is not a good person. So if your values and virtues are a person who, again, is conscientious, caring about others, you are pro-social, you're benevolent, let's say, is it always the right thing to do to brutally say something to harm people? No, it doesn't make sense. So again, like old school psychology, like my mother would say, if you don't have anything nice to say, well, then don't bother. Don't say it. And in the same vein as that, we can go back to the ancient Stoic philosophers that said, listen, you don't have to have an opinion about everything. Something can happen in this world, and you can shut up. There's no need for you to have an opinion about everything, especially if it's your negative opinion that you need to spit on people's stuff. Who needs to hear that? What type of narcissism does it take to where it's difficult for a person not to say something negative about everybody? Since when is authenticity and its best friend or cousin, judgment, a good thing? We are now valuing being judgmental as a good thing. Like I said, the Stoic philosophers would say this. It doesn't affect you. You don't have to say negative things about everything around you under the disguise of, I'm just an authentic person. I can do that. What would happen if you didn't say it at all? Are you still authentic? Oh, of course. You know where you see this a lot? Again, going back over my sporting times over the years, I've been on a lot of different teams, wrestling teams, I boxed, played football, all this stuff. And one of the things you'll see about most professionals, not in wrestling, not in professional wrestling anyway, and you won't see it in boxing most of the time, except for Muhammad Ali. Well, some of the time. But most of the time when you listen to somebody in football who they're taught to have ultimate respect for people, If you ask a football player if they're going to beat the next team that they're going to play, they almost never say that they're going to win. They will say that they're going to try their best. They will say that the other players on their team are very good players. They have great coaching. They have a great staff. They have a lot of talent. They're a force to be reckoned with, and who knows how this game is going to go, but man, I'm going to try my best. Is that being authentic? Yes, because they're being a sportsman. They're not trying to be a jerk by putting down the other team, saying that they can't play and the coaches have no brains. They don't do that. So really, not being fully authentic and saying what's on your mind at sometimes comes across as what? Comes across as classy. It comes across as taking the high road. It comes across as being decent. And I think we're missing a lot of that in our society today. I've been watching some of these debates. I'm not going to tell you if it's Democrat or Republican. If you know anything about politics, you already know what I'm talking about, because there's only one side that's actually doing debates right now. All they do, it's like they're a bunch of little kids throwing dirty diapers at each other. All they're doing is saying a bunch of negative stuff. And people love this because they're being authentic. They're being real. Nobody's stopping them. They don't care about being politically correct. Right, but they also don't care about being decent human beings. They don't care about being classy. They don't care about being professional. They don't care about being good leaders. They don't care about being good role models for adults and young adults and children alike. They don't care about any of that. So I cannot tell you how to think or what to do. I always say think for yourself. But I would say consider the thought that being authentic is not exactly what you think it is. The definition that we're using for authentic, it's not real, ironically enough. It's being used to being a very bad person. It's being used to have no empathy and no compassion for other human beings. And we're valuing people in our communities right now that have very poor values and virtues and no ethics. But as long as they're being open and honest about their stealing, open and honest about their misogyny, open and honest about their racism, well, then they're fine people because they know how to say it. Meanwhile, most of these people that act like that, they have so much money it wouldn't matter anyway because there's really no punishment to them. But that's another story. Hopefully this was valuable to you. My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. Thank you.